The goal of this podcast is to help you break in and thrive in advertising. And we do that every single week by sharing the stories and advice of those rocking it on the other side. To all the new people that are tuning in, because we have Mischief, the brand name Mischief in this episode. Welcome. We hope you stay a while. I'll be interviewing Oliver McAteer this episode. Oliver is a partner at Mischief, and he is the head of development. We talk about what that means. How do you build the brand of an agency? And he's done it so incredibly well. It could be the reason why you're tuning in. I myself, I do this for Havas Chicago. I've been doing it for about 2 years now, and I've always known Oliver as the gold standard, the benchmark for how you promote an agency. So I was really excited to have him on. But whether or not you're in agency communications or that's something that interests you or new business, his story from being a journalist in the United Kingdom to coming to the US and working in the ad trade world as a journalist here to breaking into an agency, the story, the personal brand that he's built will help you all. And we have a lot of fun. You're going to want to connect with Oliver. To do that, you can try out LinkedIn. If you listen to this episode, he explains how to do it as well. Also, I'm happy to connect you with him or any of our past guests. If you reach out to me, all I ask is you write a nice review on Apple Podcasts and maybe 5 stars. I think that's fair. But I'm excited for you to listen. If you want to know more about Mischief USA and what they're about, I've interviewed a couple of their people. Greg Hahn was I think it was our most listened to episode in 2022. So scroll back if you want to learn about the story of Mischief and listen to Greg's episode as well. But now on with this amazing show. This is the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. And as usual, I'm your accomplice, Gino Schellenberger. Kick it, Mikey. All right. Oliver McAteer, welcome to the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. How the heck are you doing today? Are you safe? I heard there was an earthquake where you're at. How's life?
Gino, I'm good, my friend. Thank you for having me. And yes, I am safe. Yeah, felt I think it's a 4.8 on the scale earthquake ripping through New Jersey. Very unusual for this British lad to be feeling an earthquake. I've never felt one. So yeah, but we're all safe. We're all good. How are things your end?
Things are good here in Chicago. Where are you from?
I'm from England. So right in between London and Brighton. If anyone's ever flown into Gatwick Airport, then they'll know the area. It's like, I grew up in like a, pure English countryside, thatched cottage, exactly how you would imagine the rolling hills of England look. And yeah, it's like 20 minutes south of Gatwick Airport.
If I'm going to go around that area, visit for the first time, where should I go? What should I check out? What should I eat?
Here's the thing, right? Well, first of all, food gets an absolutely bad rap in England. I think the food's great. I think here in America, it's oversalted and over amped up. Just get back to the basics. That's what British food is all about. It's great. So when you go to London, a lot of people make the mistake of just going to London and staying in London. They don't really know that Brighton, our seaside city, is just like an hour south on the train, not even. And it's like, because it's such a speedy line, like it's such a straight line, it's much faster than going to like many places in between, weirdly. So you can just jump on from London, Victoria, an hour south to Brighton. It's really, really beautiful. It's a really cool town just to mosey on around. Get yourself some fish and chips. You got to have fish and chips. And get fish and chips not from like a gourmet restaurant. Get fish and chips from like a hole in the wall. We're talking newspaper. We're talking like wooden forks and squeezy ketchup, like vinegar. Yes.
Yeah.
All of that stuff. Go to Brighton.
Gotcha. When did you leave over there?
When did I leave? I left, this is my 8th year in America. So, what was the year? 2016? It was right before Brexit happened.
Gotcha. Well, I think that to paint the larger picture, I think also they will know this from clicking on the title and listening to my intro. Hopefully it's a good one. I usually do the intros on one take. I should probably do a couple takes, but you are the partner and head of development at Mischief USA. Is that correct?
Yes, Mischief at no fixed address or just Mischief. But yes, partner and head of development. That's me, employee number 4 or 5. I always forget.
4.5, we'll call it.
4.5, yes.
I like that. And you are like, the benchmark for what I do. I think it's pretty clear, and I'm proud that I've followed you since the start and just been picking up and trying to be like you, actually. In this comms new business world, you are the benchmark, like top of the top. And I just want to thank you. And we're going to nerd out, everybody listening, I think, a little bit on the new business PR promotion side of an agency, which is the coolest job. Our job is to advertise ad agencies, right? It's kind of awesome. So
it's super meta. Yes, you are the marketing person for the marketing agency, but I have to, I'm blushing. Thank you. I find this very uncomfortable that you're saying all these words.
Yeah,
totally. I have to stop you and say, what you're doing is incredible. And I know we were talking before we hit record, but when I first started Mischief, or started at Mischief, I was keen on doing a podcast, right? Like I come from a content background and I was very, very keen to do a podcast in which I could talk to marketers and CMOs, emerging marketers, the people that like bold, disruptive creativity, and use it as a new business tool. And I think I did a couple of recordings from the recesses of my dingy windowless studio flat at that point during the pandemic. No production value. I was a terrible host. It took me ages to get the people on board. So it's tough. What you're doing is tough, and I canned it because it wasn't going anywhere. I couldn't do it fast enough. Mischief got really busy, but I wanted to use it as a big new business tool. I won't do that now. I will never start a podcast because you're absolutely doing exactly what I set out to do. So congratulations to you. You are your own blueprint, and you're doing it so well. I think people should give you a ton of recognition for breaking it into.
Oh, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. So you do the stuff, though. I think the TikToks I've been following for a while, and to how do you promote Mischief and the work? I've just seen the TikToks on the LinkedIn feed. I'm sure the Instagram feed as well. I guess, how do you promote Mischief? Like what's your strategy? How do you get, 5-time agency of the year, agency marketing team of the year, #1 most effective indie agency? I think we talk about Mischief on this podcast. Everybody talks about Mischief all the time. I want to go behind the curtain and understand just like high level, what's your role and your strategy to do this?
Yeah. Big question, my chum.
I
think
try to tackle that one.
Yeah. Well, we'll start at the start. I came on, and the co-founder, Greg Hahn, amazing person, as well as our president and partner, Kerry McKibben, and our ECDs and partners, Bianca and Kevin. They really just gave me the keys. They gave me the keys to help promote and grow Mischief any way that I could. And they said, drive the car. And what's more, they said, if you drive it off a cliff, we'll get a new car. It doesn't matter. So what they gave me at the very beginning was something that I've never had anywhere before at a job, which was the freedom to be absolutely fearless when it comes to talking about us and promoting the brand of Mischief. And I loved having that environment where I felt like I could do what I wanted without fear of judgment, because at heart, in the past, I've been a very insecure person, and it would, you would overthink these posts, and you'd overthink like, should I put that up there and this up there? But these people said, just go, just run with it, and just do what you would do if Mischief wasn't an agency. Mischief was a brand, and it spoke and looked and felt like a person. So that's what we tried to do. So we were very, very clear from day one to act like a brand and not an agency.
Yes. That scares me. And I, to have that ownership and to kind of be the brand lead on this agency, that's scary stuff. So talk to me about like the blueprint that they handed you, or did you have talking points? Did you have like a persona to follow? Did you have tone? Did you have like this strategy of how Mischief was going to show up in the world, or was it more so we'll figure it out along the way? And that's something that's interesting to me.
Yeah, the blueprint was Greg Hahn's vision for what Mischief should be. And day one, we had a very, very clear proposition of what we are, and more importantly, what we are not, because new business and PR is also talking about making sure you're communicating just as much and clearly what you are not, as well as what you are. And we do one thing really well at Mischief, better than anyone else, I think. I have to say that though, because I'm the PR guy. We create work that makes a stir because we believe the riskiest thing a brand can do is be completely unignorable, right? Like, what's more risky? Is it spending hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars on wallpaper that people are going to walk past? Or is it actually doing something that is very different for the category that's going to get noticed? So everything that we do at Mischief as a brand, internally and externally, all of the comments that you see has to reflect that, has to ladder back up to that rally cry of unignorable work and creating work that makes a stir. So, it's in the name, like, what you're getting with Mischief. So the blueprint to me was very clear from day one. Like, we could have fun, we could be irreverent, we could be cheeky, but we also needed to be a reflection of the work that we do, which is super strategic. Like, you do a quick Google for Mischief, like, we look like a hot creative shop. We are, and we like being told that. We like wearing that crown, but we're probably one of the best strategic shops out there, cleverly disguised as a hot creative shop. So all of our content needs to reflect that, right? We got to be talking about the work. We got to be peeling back the layers of the strategy. When it came to like the blueprint of like how do we talk, it was literally like, what social platforms are emerging? Where are agencies not talking now where they should be talking? How can I position Mischief and talk to consumers as well as the advertising world? Like, it has to be split like that. So we just went on a huge experimental roller coaster. We are on every social platform. But what has emerged victorious for us is sort of like the TikTok and LinkedIn has really high engagement too.
Got it. How scary, I guess, were those first couple months when you were trying to establish that brand and clicking send on those posts or publish on those posts? Did you feel like you needed a lot of approval, or, did you take stuff down? Because starting from scratch, I mean, that's got to be intimidating stuff.
Yeah, you know what? It wasn't. It's scarier now than it was back then because
right.
Yeah, because we had nothing to lose. We had absolutely nothing to lose. We're the new kid on the block. We can be super different. We can push the boundaries. We still do that. But now we got, 100 plus people to look after. So the stakes are a little bit higher. But yeah, like I said at the beginning, I was given those keys to drive the car, how I wanted to drive the car, when I wanted to drive it, and that freedom to be absolutely fearless. After that, yeah, there were a couple of times I was like, should I post this? I remember talking to Greg and the team, the leadership team, and I was like, if you ever think I'm going too far or whatever, like, tell me and I can dial it back. And Greg just replied saying, we will never dial back. We will only dial forward. And I think from that moment, of course there are lines, but you, as a PR person, you know how to play those lines, or you should. That's the skills that you bring to the table. But it really gave me that freedom to just, the reins were off and I could go do what I wanted. So it wasn't scary.
Got it. How do you distinguish and toe the line between your personal brand and the agency brand? This is something that I'm kind of conflicted with. That there's Gino, there's Breaking Entering, there's Havas. They all, and I teach at a university as well. So they all ladder into advertising and helping people get jobs, and Havas is in that too. So I'm curious, how do you navigate your personal brand, Mischief, and your family life or whatever else you got going on?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I'm glad that you brought that up. It's tough. People try and strike a work-life balance. I don't want to say work is my life because it's not, but I don't see work as work. Like, I really, really enjoy what I do. So there is a weird kind of fusion, right? There really is. And there is so much of my personality which has gone into the Mischief brand that sometimes it can be hard to distinct. But that's because, it would be different if I go work for a Havas. that has a proposition, it has a brand, it has missions and stuff, then you kind of have to adhere to that or change your style. I would start from scratch at a startup. So I could pour my personality into it more than I could have done anywhere else. So I'd be lying if I said there's a bit of a huge difference between the Mischief brand and like my own personal brand. Now, when it comes to channels and stuff, Mischief is different to my personal brand in that if you go look at my personal TikTok, which, it's got like 26,000 followers, whatever, it's like a small kind of, a small community for new parents. I became a new dad about a year ago. So I started posting really aggressively on TikTok about that. So I talk about being a new parent on TikTok and experiment. I use it as an experimentation pool for Mischief stuff, actually. But I do half of it about like new parent stuff and then half of it about being a British guy living in America. So I keep that very separate from the work stuff. And obviously my work, the brand of Mischief and the voice of Mischief, we talk about work. We unpack the work. It's more professional, but it's fun and it's cheeky and it has parts of my personality that you're going to see bleed over into my personal brand, I guess you would call it.
Yes. Interesting. Yes. I didn't know that you had that. It's like it's just like you're just good at identifying like these niches, right? Like with the new parent, you probably are doing well in that niche too. And what was the other one? Being British, living in New York, living in America.
Yeah. Well, TikTok's really good at that. But I mean, like you find a niche and you hammer that niche and then you find a following for that niche, trying to be, and it goes back to having a clear proposition as an agency brand. If you're trying to be all things to all people, like one size fits all, one size fits all fits no one. Like I want people to dislike Mischief and not like Mischief as much as I want them to love Mischief.
Right.
And adore Mischief. Because again, that acts as a great new business filter, right? Like,
if they're coming to you,
you already know what you're getting when you come to Mischief. So it's not like you have a bunch of, jumbled letters. I'm not trying to, jumbled letters on the door. And you're like, what do they do? I know they do creative ideas, but like, what kind of creative ideas? What you're going to get with Mischief when you come to the door. So it acts as a new business filter immediately. You've only got half the people that want to come to you. You haven't got to do the kind of dance around and explain who you are and everything. It's kind of the reverse RFP, if you will.
Yeah, that's the dream. That's a dream. And I think Breaking Entering kind of has that too. Breaking Entering advertising, the name itself kind of builds a brand. It's like you're committing a crime. It's hard to get into advertising, and we're going to be your accomplice in that.
Yes.
So we're trying to like build that brand up. And I believe Mischief started April 16th of 2020. Is that correct? Around this?
Yeah, the date gets thrown around a lot. I actually started like at the beginning of July. I believe it was that day. Yes, at the very beginning of June. Yeah,
I believe somewhere. I think I talked about it with Greg on the podcast, and April 16th was the exact same day that Breaking Entering launched.
Nice.
A lot of planning before, of course, but I don't know. I like to throw that one out there. And you guys became one of the hottest shops, and we're still a podcast. So,
we're the hottest podcast in the advertising biz.
Number two.
Number two.
We're number 2 to Ad Age, and we're coming for them.
Oh yeah, tear them down. Let's hope Brian doesn't hear this.
He's on the pod. He's on.
I love the series. It's great.
Tell me about your background and all this stuff. And I'm going to say this in the intro too, but recap. Listeners that are students, people trying to break into advertising, do you see the parallels? Do you hear the parallels? You are a brand. All this stuff that we're talking about, Mischief, Breaking Entering, Havas, applies to you. And you can take all these lessons to your career break-in too. So let's keep that lens in the back of our minds here as we're talking. But so Oliver, tell me about how you got into, why did Greg pick you? I'm assuming he hired you. And where was your background before? What were you doing pre-PM, pre-Mischief?
Yeah, I'll try and keep it tight because it's a fairly long story. But yes, I was a journalist. I was a journalist. I was a journalist for about 15 years. I worked on a local paper. I didn't go to college. and I actually dropped out of what would be high school in America. So it's different in the UK. You have you do high school, you do it's called secondary school. And then you have 2 years in college to do A levels, which is junior and senior year of high school. And then you go to university. So I went to our version of college, and in the junior year of high school, which is the first year of our college, I dropped out. So I didn't like it. Academia I really struggled in class. I'm very antsy. I'm very I just wanted to work and get experience. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. Loved meeting people, and I loved writing. I always loved writing. So I managed to get a job on the local paper. That was really, really fun. And I did that whilst all my friends were kind of on the conveyor belt of going to university and doing that for 3, 4, 5 years. I was still in my hometown having massive FOMO with all these people going to uni, but I was in my hometown on the local paper reporting.
What were you reporting on at the local paper?
It was everything. And I think that was the beauty of it, because one day, the whole classic trope about, oh, you got to report on a new statue or a new park bench opening. Yes. I'm in the countryside in Horsham in the middle of nowhere, but also there was a weird amount of crime there, a weird amount of crime. I had my number, my mobile number was in the front of all of the emergency services trucks. So if there was a big fire, then the firefighters would call me up and say, we're going to go tackle this. You can come out and watch and report on it. I would go to court and do high profile court cases down in Brighton, actually, get my fish and chips. I would go to inquests, which are super interesting. I don't think they exist in America, but it's when someone dies unexpectedly and it's not linked to a crime, but you need to figure out how they've died. And you sit in it and you hear the days and weeks leading up to the death. And then there's a conclusion around that death, like accidental death or death by misadventure. And you're with the families, and it's just a room full of huge emotion. So I dealt with a lot of different people and so many different things. And I had my own column too, where there was they wanted to increase readership among young people. So I said to the editor, I was like, just give me a page, and I'll fill it with my own thoughts. I was 19 or 18 at the time, right? So I was like, I will write what I think is going to be interesting for young people. So I did that, and I had a page where I just interviewed someone who would never really get a limelight in the local paper, really interesting people. The first one I did was a really well-known bartender in the area who was going through a gender transition. And, this was 15 years ago in a very conservative town. So it was controversial to have a piece in about it. So I always wanted to push the envelope with content and do that kind of stuff. I'm telling a really long story, I'm sorry, but fast forward to many years down the line.
Yeah.
I go to America, I work for a couple of national newspapers. I end up working for the Daily Mail newspaper up in London. I keep banging on in people's ear. I'm like, I just want to go to Manhattan. I just had a thing. I just really wanted to go to Manhattan. I wanted to get dropped inside the biggest, baddest city in the world and just see what happened, see if I could make it. And I knew they had an office out there, so I was trying to get out there. So they sent me out to work. I was very lucky, and it happened very quickly. They were like, yep, you need to go, but you need to go tomorrow. So I did that, and they were like, it could be 3 weeks or it could be 3 months. And it ended up being, it's this is my 8th year in America now.
Yeah.
So then I was working on, I didn't really enjoy the newsroom side of stuff in the end. It was it was more journalism than it was journalism. I really enjoyed the local paper because you felt like you were affecting change and you met a lot of people, and there was none of that when you were at a national level. You were kind of just writing, so I'm not talking to many people. So I wanted to get that community back, but I also wanted to stay in America. So I had to get someone to pay for my visa. So I stumbled across a job for Campaign magazine, which is really big in the UK. And they had an outpost in the US, Campaign US, big up Campaign US. And they said, yeah, why don't you go and help run the newsroom out there? And I was like, yes, I would love to do that. But I thought, oh my God, who wants to write about advertising and marketing? Isn't that so boring? I had no experience in it whatsoever. And the editor at the time was like, if you just talking to people about crazy creative ideas, and these people are super interesting and so passionate, if you are drawn to that, then that's all you need to know at this stage. I was like, okay. And she was so right. The first couple of weeks working for Campaign magazine was some of the most interesting and exhilarating weeks of my career outside of Mischief, because I met so many awesome people, and it really filled me up with motivation and passion that I'd never had before. And I was like, holy shit. I was like, I'm going to sit here at Campaign and learn everything I can about the industry. And then I'll pick my moment and swoop in when it's right. And
How long did it take for you to come to that realization that you wanted to like you said, swoop in or transfer into agency life?
it was immediately because, like, if I'm being honest, I took the job to stay in the country more than I did to take a journalism job. Like,
Yeah.
I really enjoyed meeting people and writing, but journalism was always like, a byproduct of that. It was like week 2 at campaign when I was meeting all these people. I was like, oh my God, I need to educate myself in this entire industry, and then I'm going to go work. Didn't think I'd ever work for an agency. I always thought I'd go brand side because I didn't think any of the agencies had a good model. Really, I liked parts of some models and not all of them, So when Mischief came along, I was like, this is a model of the future. So
how long were you at campaign covering?
I was, it was about 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
About 3 or 4 years.
And what vertical, what beat were you on for that? Was it more so just all like creative news, agency news?
It was, we didn't really have verticals because there were so little people there, so
it was just all for one, like,
it was kind of like a free for all. Yeah, I had a great.
What were you most drawn to?
I loved the ideas. I love writing about
the work,
creative ideas, the work that had really good results. But I also loved just overall trends of the industry, and I was really drawn to the pitch process of new business too. Like, I always thought it was a real broken side of the industry, and I was just really interested in that power dynamic of like brands, whole power and agency.
All the power, yeah.
Yeah, so that's one of the things I wanted to change when I came to Mischief.
How much money it costs to actually run a pitch from start to finish. Yeah.
It's crazy. So when I knew Greg on and off. I knew Greg on and off, and he,
you were in New York, you were working at campaign, you probably covered some of his stuff or had conversations with him. Yeah. BBDO, I believe, was at the time.
He was at BBDO. The pandemic happens, and that obviously draws a massive line in the sand for everything and everyone, right?
Right.
It's like a line in the sand between brands and agencies that are willing to transform and those that are not. And Greg saw an opportunity to write, the future of the industry, to rewrite it and build something for the future instead of retrofitting the future onto something that was built for yesterday. So he was doing that, and I was close to him at the time. And he called me up. He said, "Oh, I think I've found the model of the future, and I would love for you to do an interview about it." So at the time, we're doing video interviews, so very much like we're doing now. And it was during the pandemic, and I jumped on and I heard him speak about Mischief with one of the co-founders, Dave LaFond, who created No Fixed Address, which is like a separate agency ecosystem that helped found and build and power Mischief. And I was listening to him talk, and like halfway through, I knew after the years that I'd sat in the bird's nest of campaign, I was like, this is it. This is going to be the future of advertising and agency world and creativity. And I want to be part of it. So I finished the interview. I tried to write the best damn story of my entire life because I really wanted them to be impressed. And then I called up Greg and I said, I don't know what I can do for you. I'm a journalist, but I would just love to come work for you and help build Mischief and help power growth any way that I can.
What do you say?
I did this over LinkedIn, actually, over a LinkedIn DM. I still have it. I might frame it. And he was like, yeah, he said something like, we're building the plane while we're flying it. Maybe you should have a chat with me and Dave, and maybe we can figure something out. And, it wasn't an instant thing. I had a bunch of chats with them. And then over that time, I was trying to, because you sit on this side too. So your contact list is full of CMOs and marketers. Mm-hmm. And I did everything I could to get as many cool, bold, disruptive, emerging marketers in front of Mischief as I could in that time. So I was like, you need to talk to Mischief. They're a new emerging agency. It's stuff that I used to do at campaign all the time. Like, marketers used to ask me for advice on who to go to agency wise. And I'm like, you got to go to Mischief. You got to go to Mischief. And then Dave and Greg were like, fine, just come on and do this permanently. So it was, we had no work to PR. We had no real clients, but it was like, this guy's introducing us to a good amount of CMOs. Like, maybe he can do this. And then the ball just got rolling. So that's why the job instantly was kind of half PR and half new business. Right.
That's very similar how Myra Nussbaum at Hamas Chicago pulled me in. How I broke in was after I interviewed her. She said, why don't you come run comms for us? And because these journalists I was just randomly interviewing people every week. That was the only thing I cared about, was getting an episode every week. Yeah. And I ended up getting a Rolodex of reporters that have come on. she's like, why don't you come work with us? So I
I
was
like,
like, I think it's really interesting paths. And there's something to be said about the comms and new business world, especially like PR professionals. Like I just had some students in today into the office this morning, and I tell the aspiring PR people, like, can you be a journalist? Can you, for a little bit, can you write your own blog? Can you work for a publication in some way, shape, or form so you understand what journalists are interested in? Like that's super helpful.
yeah, yeah. I love that. I love that. And yeah, it's true. There's so many skills that that can ladder up to comms and new business.
Mm-hmm.
But if you like people, like talking to people, you're interested, you ask a bunch of questions, and you're a good writer, you can go straight into comms and new business. I
Yep.
think.
Totally. It's good stuff. I'm glad that we're talking about this world. I don't think it gets enough credit. Well, or people know how to break into it. So I'm glad we're talking about it. Is there anything else out there? Like if you were to start this all over again and you knew, let's say you're just graduating college now, in the United States, and you wanted to work at Mischief or you want to do comms and PR, how would you do it today?
I would find the company that really speaks to you in terms of mission and values and work, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I would find the people that run it and I would hound the absolute shit out of them until they gave me a job. I look at people entering the industry now and it's tough. It took me 15 years of journalism to figure out what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I never wanted to do journalism. I loved meeting people and writing, and I did not know how those skills could fit anywhere else. I just fell into journalism, really, just kept it going. I knew I wanted to come to New York, and then I was lucky that I just found my people. And you need to make the effort to network and to find your people. So yes, look to the agencies that are doing the things that you want to do, the brands that are doing the things that you want to do, the mission. Like you have to love and be behind that, because you have to work towards a higher purpose. But more importantly, it's using time to build your network, because you need to be with the right people. You need to find your right people, because Mischief on paper could be the right company. But then if I was to go in and the people were not the people, and there was micromanagement and I wasn't allowed to flex my personality on social with new business or PR like I'm able to, if there's layers and silos, then it's not the right company because the people are not right. So you need to do whatever you can to build your network, to meet as many people as you can, because you never know who is going to give you that chance and opportunity. I'm very lucky that I found Greg,
Totally.
Bianca and Kevin when I did.
It takes time. It takes time. That's why I tell students and anybody, like, start soon, start right now. People that are like, I know it's like internship season now, and they're all reaching out. Like there's a lot of people reaching out to me for internships, and I've been preaching, you should have started that months ago. It's not too late, obviously, if you do it in a creative way. Now the bar is higher because they're all coming in at the same time. So like, what can you do to stand out now? Ideally, you would have started months ago. This like light networking, but now you got to stand out in some way, shape, or form, and do a little bit more curated outreach, whether it's creating something or complementing, adding a little bit of touch to it now is important.
Yeah, you absolutely need to, and that's why finding a niche like what you're doing with this podcast is so important and relevant to people breaking in, because it's hard. Like you don't need to be an extrovert. You don't need to put yourself and your personality on the line and go all out there. You don't need to start a podcast. But doing these things to separate yourself and finding a different way to network is what's going to get you somewhere, I think.
Yeah, it's like if you do a survey or a focus group and that's tailored to the agency, one of the agency's clients on a campus or in your hometown, a little bit of like, hey, I made this for you. I just want a little bit extra. I know you have this, you recently did this work. I actually filmed the reaction at the Super Bowl. Something a little bit more helps. That's a little bit more bespoke. But Oliver, this has been great. People are going to want to reach out to you. How could they network with you if they want to talk more about Mischief or the agency world or journalism, how to break into journalism, any of those questions, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah. Find me on social. I'm most active on TikTok or LinkedIn. LinkedIn's probably best. Just give me an ad. I think the DMs are open, and we can have a chat. Yeah, but I want to be accessible, and yeah, I'm here. I'm here. I'm here for it.
And you're a new parent. We know Mischief working hard. So if anybody needs help reaching out to Oliver or any of our past guests, let me know. And I'll be happy to be the bridge for that too.
Thank you. What else? You want to throw some curveballs in there? Any hard questions?
What's if you weren't working at Mischief, you had to pick one other agency, what would it be?
Oh, did it have to be an agency?
Yes. We could take this out too.
No, keep it. I've always really liked Adam and Eve DDB in the UK.
Yeah.
The John Lewis ads.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, I grew up with the ads. I grew up seeing them. And I like all the work they did with Marmite. So purely based on work, I don't know the people, purely based on work, probably Adam and Eve. And then it gets me, you know, home to the UK, which isn't a goal, but it's, you know, it's tough, man. I couldn't work for any other agency other than Mischief. I really couldn't, because I have to believe in what I'm pushing. And
that's why I asked that question. I was just wanting to see if you had a switch that you can enter.
Yeah, I think it's tough.
You turned it off for a second. I got you there.
Yeah. What else?
If you weren't in journalism, marketing, what other career? I always call it like what would be like your trade career, like something with your hands. Like what would you be doing?
You know, well, my dream job would be an actor. I'd love to be an actor. I tried to go to drama school, and I did not get the scholarship for it, so I couldn't go. But like my dream was to be an actor. So I would, you know, if it all went to shit again, I had to restart, I'd probably pursue that dream. If it was a trade thing, my dad owns a small security company, like very local, you know, access control, CCTV cameras and stuff like that. I'd probably go work for my dad. He's got like a couple of employees and like a van. And, you know, I used to spend my summers working for him and installing alarms and stuff. And I love that. And he's a great guy. He's very charismatic, and I've learned a lot from him. So I go work for Paul McAteer.
There we go. And your child, what would you recommend your child to get into advertising in 24 years from now?
I would recommend my child to go and work somewhere where he is successful because of his personality.
Do you think that would be advertising?
I think that could be any industry that you want it to be if you're working with the right people. I'm so interested to see what advertising looks like in 24 years. Yeah, sure. I'd say go for it, but I would say follow your dreams, son. If you want to do whatever you want to do, you can do whatever you want to do, you know?
My dad told me I should do accounting. And I told him, oh, account executive at an agency? Because I like that. He was like, close enough. Close enough.
What else?
Oh, man. You want to ask me any questions?
Yeah, you happy in life?
Yes, I'm very happy.
Yeah.
I'm young, and I enjoy coming into work every day, and I have a good balance with my friends. My family life is good. Happy and hungry is how
and talk to me about the hunger part. Like, what's next for you?
I want to grow in my agency life. I want to be an agency CMO one day. I think that's the direct career goal. I want to see what can happen with breaking and entering, and I want to keep it going, grow that as much as possible. I want to be in academia at some point. I think my retire plan, you know, if I burn out or I have a health issue, is to teach one day. I think that's like when I'm 60, have the family, be on a campus and teach this stuff.
I love that. Any campus would be lucky to have you, and any agency would be lucky to have you as a CMO, which I'm sure you'll do in just a handful of months and years.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Are you happy?
I couldn't be happier. You know, the past year has been really strange in that the kid changes everything. I was someone that used to work 24/7, and then there's just like, there's pockets where you just cannot work. So real shift in perspective of what's important.
Yeah, like do the reasons for work, it has to is it changed now? Like, are you motivated now to help your child? Does it like change your perspective like on work?
Yeah, you know what? Before I had a kid, I was like, when I have a kid, I'm going to be, it's going to change everything in that. I'm going to be more hungry. And I've always been really hungry.
Mhm.
One of the hungriest people that you'll meet. Like, I really want to do well. I've got a chip on my shoulder. I want to prove to people that I can do well. Probably an insecurity thing. I will never ever stop. So what it has changed though is how I use my time, and it's changed in such a great way. And actually, the partner in ECD, Kevin Mulroy, he's got 3 kids,
Mm.
and he's an incredibly awesome dad, and he's so damn good at his job. And in the lead up to becoming a parent, I said, "How do you do it? Like, you've got 3 kids. I'm worried about one, and you're creating the biggest bangers out there creatively. 50 campaigns last year at Mischief. How are you doing that and having 3 kids?" And he commutes in from New Jersey. And I was like, "Where are you finding the time?" And he said, "It's funny. Before you have a kid, you think your time is like that." He said, "But when you have a kid and your time is like that, like you find pockets of efficiency where you never knew you could find them." And I was like, "Okay, sure." And it's so true. Like, I'm way more efficient with my time now. Like, I have an hour. I'll do, a couple more things than I normally would. Like, I'm locked in and I'm like, "Ooh, we're
Yep.
done." And then I'm very strict about the boundaries that I put up. Like, between certain hours of the evening, I'm spending time with my kid. It's bedtime. It's bath time.
And now you probably enjoy work more because of it. Like, as you have those boundaries, you can turn off. You actually probably think of better ideas when you turn off and you're focused and you're having a good time. I don't have that as much, but I feel like I'm always on. But I have the podcasts, I have the masters, like I'm working on and like teaching. And I thought this was going to be the hardest year of 2024 due to like all these things I'm doing, but I've become more efficient. And now we have 6 segments of breaking and entering. And last year we only had like 2 or 3. So we doubled what we were going to do, all because I thought it was going to be way busier, and we just became more efficient with more stuff on our plate.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can do when you really focus and find those pockets of efficiency. And that's one piece of advice I'd have to anyone that's coming in. It can be so hard, especially in our industry. It can be so easy to overwork, and it can be so easy to pull all of the hours into the day into your job. But you shouldn't. You got to put up those boundaries, because the boundaries will give you time to be better at your job. Like they really do. Like, I wish I didn't have to have a kid to put those boundaries up. It took having a kid to make me put those boundaries up, but I need to, and I'm better.
Pretty good reason though.
Yeah. Pretty good reason. Like, the kid, you need to look after the kid or the kid will not survive. It's pretty black and white.
Yeah.
What else? Enjoying talking to you.
Me too. Let's wrap it up here. I want to make sure people can reach out to you. Cool, man. Great episode. Let's stay in touch, and I'm sure we'll have more, what do you call your people? Mischievous?
I guess we have a name. We don't really have a name, but yeah.
Mischief.
Folks, if you need, more people, and if you need to reach other people outside of Mischief, I can help.
Thank you, sir. I hope people reach out, and I hope people enjoyed this, because I did.
Oh, good. I hope you did. A little bit rambly, but I hope there's some nuggets in there.
Oh yeah, we'll find it. Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Cheers, mate. Bye.